Hello to all. I'm sorry I'm not with you, but I wish you welcome to the 25th anniversary of Norwex. I'm happy you're all here. I'm going to share some insight stories for you, stories from behind the scenes, most of which have not been told before. It's the 24th of June 2019, and I think it's exactly 25 years ago since I and my then partner founded Norwex. Norwex is short for the Norwegian experience, don't forget that. And Norwex is the only Norwegian multinational direct sales company. I am very proud of Norwex, not least because of our wonderful company mission, which is to improve quality of life by radically reducing chemicals in our homes. We are now on the top of the hill called Skuta, which means something like the hill that shoots forward in the terrain. When you come up here and suddenly get this incredible view, you start thinking, because here I am alone and all the others are down there in the city looking at their television screens or whatever they're doing, but anyway down in the jungle of asphalt and glass and steel. I didn't think that was life. I think life is here out in nature. In 1988, I established my own law firm. That was the first time I made my own business. Before that, I've been an employee. I was not very much in love with law, but what I did was to try to find a deeper meaning with what I should do. Some of you might know that Norway has a very, very high tax pressure. You have to pay a lot of your income in taxes, more than half of it. I started to learn how big the black economy was and how much tax money that was disappearing into the black market. So my deeper meaning soon became to investigate economic crime, and I soon became known for that. So I was one of the favorites of the courts. So this law office soon became quite a successful business, but only through extremely hard work. I had a client who had a cleaning business. And one fine day in 1994, he popped into my office screaming that, Bjørn, I have bought this agency for a fantastic new product. Now we can clean without using soap, without using chemicals. Point one, I was extremely busy. I absolutely didn't have time for him. Point two, I thought the guy had gone completely nuts. But in the end, he said something smart. Bjørn, what's the most difficult thing you are cleaning? I had the car down in the garage, and it was in the beginning of the insect season. And I said, well, my car is in the garage. And he said, yeah, take this cloth, go to the restroom, put some water on it, and go down and clean your windscreen. And I thought, aha, that's a good idea. That takes me 3 minutes, then it's gone, and then I can go on working. And you can imagine my surprise when just after a couple of not even hard wipes, all the remainders of the insect, everything disappeared from this window. So the rest is history. I had an industrial building in a place called Dal, and that was an ideal place to put the first office and the first warehouse. And that was how it started. When the first goods came in there, it was 3-4 boxes. We opened one of the gates in the warehouse, just went out inside the door and put the 3-4 boxes down from the car, made a big U-turn into the warehouse and went to the other corner, the far corner of the warehouse, and we could hardly see the stock we had bought because it was so tiny. But we were extremely proud. We were in business. The slogan in our company, which was named Eidsvoll Miljøprodukter to start with, not Norwex, was cleaning without chemicals. That was our company mission. We didn't have the same knowledge about the dangers of chemicals 25 years ago, but we had still some proof of the dangers of chemicals. We both understood that if we got rid of the chemicals, the homes would be healthier, and there would be less pollution into nature. We really had a mission to fight for, and this was very important to me. When I talk about Norwex to people that haven't heard of it before, my best way to do it is the following 2 stories. 200 years ago, or before the Industrial Revolution, there was about 1 in 9,000 that got cancer during their lifespan. Today in the Western world, this figure is 1 in 3, and I think that's very scary. And I'm sure it has to do also with the pollution or all the chemicals that we are spreading around. The other story I used to tell is that we have proof that every newborn baby, right from the moment it's born, has more than 200 chemicals in the body that shouldn't have been there. I think this is very, very scary. So there is no doubt that radically reducing chemicals is even more important now than it used to be. So our mission really is one for the future. Microfiber had been on the market for some time when we started, but as in many other aspects of life, the invention was made by a coincidence. It was actually made in Sweden. By a coincidence, the factory in question found out that not only could you use microfiber in ordinary textiles and diapers and so on, but you could actually use it for cleaning. This was discovered, I think, in 91, 92. So we started in 94. We are really one of the pioneers in the industry. And I think we still have the best microfiber in the world. We are the only ones that, in some scale, market antibacterial microfiber. No one else does that. And we have a quality control manual like no one else, I believe. But the way it started was not home party. We started in the business-to-business market, and we were not allowed to sell in the private market. So we all started on the professional market, meaning we sold to businesses and kindergartens, schools, hospitals, and so on. But when people found out how well these products work, they wanted to buy them. And we tried to press the Swedes to allow us to sell on home party. And after being in business for about 1 year, they finally allowed us to do it because we were quite successful. We built the business up very quickly. So the first home party was finally held in May 1995, about a year after we started. And from there it just took off. Once we got to talk to people and show them, everybody wanted to buy. So the turnover just exploded in Norway. The next important thing that happened was that in 1998, in the fall, early fall, we had visitors from Canada. That was Debbie and GERD. And GERD, of course, she was originally a Norwegian, and she had a sister in Bergen, and the sister had bought Norwex products. So she contacted GERD and said, have a look at this. And they both understood that this could be something. They visited us then the early fall '98, and it was some confusion because my partner had told me they are in for a joint venture. So the meeting came on a little bit awkward to start with, but as soon as I understood what they were actually looking at, they wanted us to make the whole investment. Then we came on track very quickly. Debbie and GERD started working for us something like 1st of October '98, maybe it was 1st of November, at a very small wage. And the first sales started in Canada in 1st of April 1999. They got a tight budget, so they went to the flea market and bought furniture. They took a trolley from the supermarket to roll the heaviest things back to the office. And it was quite a burden for them. They worked in the warehouse during daytime and did the office work, and then they were out having home parties in the evening. They worked enormous hours and made Norwex a success in Canada. Now GERD, of course, is retired, but she still pops into the office now and then. And Debbie, of course, is still with us as a main person in sales globally. So Norwex has a lot to thank Debbie for, and GERD. Originally the name was Eidsvoll Miljøprodukter. That was a little bit ridiculous for Debbie and GERD because they couldn't pronounce it. Every time she tries, I get a good laugh. So we found out it was not a practical name for North America. And Debbie came up with the idea, let's call it Norwex, which is short for the Norwegian experience. Of course, Norwex is now a reasonably big company, sales in many countries, 2 factories, head office in Malta, holding company in Norway. It's a big organization. Although Norwex now is a big success, it hasn't always been like that. Everything starts small. I told you about the 3-4 cases, that was how it started. It has been lots of ups and downs, lots of hard work, lots of pressure. I think this is the same as you experience in your business. It's not always easy. Not all the home parties are very successful. And you find that there's quite a lot of hard work. I think the first important one was around the year 2000, or maybe it was 1999, when the Swedish company that we bought the goods from, which was not the same as the factory that produced them, suddenly said, we're not going to sell the Swedish products anymore, we're going to sell Japanese products. We had 2 choices. We could say, yes, okay, we will buy Japanese products from you, but then risk to ruin our own business, because if our customers, if our home party organization didn't like those products, we will be gone. Or we could terminate with this Swedish company and take the risk that we would be able to persuade the factory and go directly to the factory and buy from them, which we didn't know. And the first thing that happened was that the company that we bought the products from, they sued us. So that became a court case, which in itself was a huge threat against us because we didn't have too much money. But fortunately, at least we managed to get a new contract directly with the Swedish factory, so we kept the products. We could go on selling. The next thing that happened was that we saw that microfiber started to come from the Far East, and we found out that the price point was a completely different one. We asked the Swedes, you have to lower your price because you can't compete with the Far East. They were quite arrogant. We were their biggest customer, and they didn't give us a dime. So again, we had two choices. We could go on selling the Swedish stuff, risking that we were outpriced from the market and lose our business, or we could go and investigate what was these products coming from the Far East, what are they and what would the price be and what's the quality and all of that. So we decided to do that. Our surprise was very big when we saw the quality of the Chinese products. They could make actually a far better quality than we got from the Swedes. But to persuade Debbie that now we would make our own branded products, now there would be Norwex products and not the Swedish products, she was very nervous because of course she also saw it as a risk, because we had taught our market that it's the Swedish products that are good. So that was still a risk, but we did it, and that actually went quite well. The next challenge was that the Norwegian home party started to decline actually quite a lot, and we got very bad economy. I remember I had to work many hours for nothing, and I told my then partner that we can't pay your salary anymore. He accepted that, but he said, Bjørn, then you have to lend me money so I can survive. I think he even didn't dare to tell his wife what was going on, but she didn't feel it because I gave him money every month. So very, very hard times. If I hadn't had the successful law business on the side, I would never have been able to do that. And it came to the point that I had to start selling as well to help getting some revenue into the company. And I think I still have the sales record in Norwex. I sold more than $500,000 one year. When we went to China, there was some patents involved. The Swedes had some patents. And I told my partner that whatever you do, don't violate those patents when you ask the Chinese to develop new products. So my surprise was quite big when our most important business-to-business customer one day told us we've gotten this strange letter from the Swedes saying that we have infringed their patents. So we again had a very threatening case. We could be sued from here to eternity if we had breached their patents. This was again a real emergency situation. At that point, I told my partner that I didn't want him to be involved in product development anymore, that he should go back to sales. He didn't want that, and we had a crisis in the partnership, which ended with me buying him out, and he quit. What did my previous partner do? He started a competing company. He tried to get hold of our business-to-business customers. Then Norwex sued him. So a new court case. We used to be very good friends, and it was very tough to sue your previous partner. On top of that, that case wasn't very successful for us. We only won a small part of it, and he got away with most of it. So for me, that also was a very hard time. we had so many hardships and we had bad economy. Company couldn't pay its wages without my help. Why didn't I give up? Well, I think something came from my bicycling career. As a bicyclist, the word giving up doesn't exist in your vocabulary. You never give up. You just persuade yourself to take more pain, to go on and on and on. And I'm a bit like that in business as well. The other main point was that I felt that what we were doing was so important. We couldn't give up, we mustn't give up, we must get the word out about getting rid of the chemicals. Since my previous partner had started a new company, he had persuaded the factory to produce for him instead of for us. So suddenly our whole flow of products was threatened. So what did I do? Well, fortunately at the time, one of our shareholders was a prominent Chinese woman. I asked her to help and we went to China together. Visit the factory, and the factory owner wouldn't talk to me. He refused to have anything to do with me. But he couldn't refuse to talk to this Chinese woman who was very, very high up in the social hierarchy in China. The meetings took 2 days. During that time, my Chinese partner were in a meeting with the factory owner, and I was sitting out in the corridor on a chair, just sitting there waiting for 2 days. Fortunately, she was very clever, and after some time we managed to get to be able to buy products again. But that was a very close and dangerous situation, very close to running out of products. But again, I think the guys in the field at the time, they knew nothing about what was going on. Because of the bad economy we had, we didn't manage to send enough goods to Debbie. We couldn't afford it. And when I started to come more involved in the company, working again for nothing, I found out that Debbie had lots and lots of back orders. So one of the first things I did was to make sure we could send Debbie a container with goods so she could get out of that horrible situation. So we did, and the situation in Canada got much, much better. We started to grow again. Debbie's operation in Canada got bigger. In 2004, we also incorporated in Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania. After the Baltics, we incorporated in Australia, New Zealand. We started in many European countries. We got an American office from 2011, but you would probably not guess why we incorporated in the US. I mean, the direct reason for it. I was woken up in the middle of the night, I think it was about 3 o'clock, Christmas, I think it was 2010. And they told me, Bjørn, our container to the US from Canada is stuck in customs. They wanted to check it. Now that story ended well, and we got the container going after a few days. But we found out we couldn't risk this again. So we decided, also because the US market at that time was quite big, we needed a separate company, a separate warehouse in Canada, and that was how the Dallas office came into existence. And lastly, we incorporated now in Malaysia, which already, even it started only in April this year, is a great success. Actually, far exceeding what we could ever have dreamt. I think Malaysia would be the fastest startup in the history of Norwex. I did not get any support from my parents for anything I did. As a youngster, I decided to start bicycling and compete, and I got quite good at it. My father was very against that because he said, Bjørn, you can't live from bicycling, you can't earn any money on that. So to buy bicycle and equipment, I had to do everything I could do as a small boy, 12, 13, 14 years. I cut the neighbors' lawns, I worked as a caddy on the golf course, I brought flowers out from the flower shop, etc., etc. And even if I knew my father was against me bicycling, I couldn't help screaming out of joy the first time I got a letter saying that I was elected to bicycle for Norway. I was on the country team. And I gave him the letter, and he just looked up at me and said, okay, what's the point of that? I think that most people get some kind of support from their parents. Either they get some financial help, or at least some moral help. They get some encouragement, motivation, and so on. And I have to say I only got the opposite. So my message to all of you looking at Norwex is, if I can do it, all of you can do it, because I'm sure you at least have the same resources that I had. My father once told me that the Norwegian ambassador to Belgium, he never made any mistakes. But then he added, do you know why he didn't make any mistakes? He didn't do anything. So the only ones not making mistakes are the ones doing nothing. If you really go for it, if you try your best, if you push forward all the time, you're bound to make mistakes. So that's not the problem. The issue is how you handle your mistakes. You have to try to learn from your mistakes. And I always say, okay, here is a huge obstacle, a huge threat. The challenge you have is to turn that obstacle, that threat, into an opportunity. And this I've done a few times with great success. Actually, it's in hard times you can really move forward. So we started in 1994 with cleaning without chemicals. Then we gradually expanded our product portfolio, and in 2008 we changed our company mission to improving quality of life by radically reducing the use of chemicals in personal care and cleaning. And in 2014 we changed our company mission again to what it is today, to improve quality of life by radically reducing chemicals in our homes. First, you have to have the courage to dream in order to decide where you want to get, where do you want to go, where do you want to be a few years ahead. And you have to be honest to yourself. The second thing you need is to have the determination to get there and to not give up when you're struggling a bit uphill. At the end, I will thank you all for being with us for all these years. Without you, this wouldn't have happened. We're all a huge global team. And I trust and believe that the next 25 years will be even more successful. Remember, the sky is not the limit.